My team has informed me that you were hoping to maybe ask me some questions.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started to learn about you and after we had our first brainstorming session, I was like, who is this man? I need to know more. So yes, welcome one, welcome all to our flipped interview. We are going to figure out a couple things about you. So let's run through a quick lightning round. I think I know the answer to this one, but a politician or public figure who has made an impact on you.
Well, he's right here.
There he is.
Right here. I got a crochet Pete that a friend sent me. Pete Buttigieg came along at the right time for me. He was a candidate that I thought was just trying to get into it for the publicity. And I dismissed him out of hand because I just figured, who is this mayor? He's going to try to make a little splash for himself. And then I heard him at a bookstore called Politics and Prose in Washington, D.C., where he spoke for an hour with Jonathan Allen about his book. And that was free-form conversation, and you can't hide what you don't know in that kind of situation. And you hear this everywhere about Pete, but he impressed the hell out of me. And I desperately wanted to get more involved in politics. I desperately wanted to find a candidate, but I didn't want to just glom on to somebody because of those things. And I happened to find somebody who was ready to go at the right time. And as we see from the success that he managed out of that, even though the candidacy didn't go all the way, he has still just exploded onto the scene, and he's going to influence generations to come. I'm very proud and happy that I had my little hand in promoting his name wherever I could.
Mm-hmm. I think your show last week, you guys were talking about how he makes complicated ideas easy to understand.
Yeah,
and approachable, interesting, even if I could go so far.
I think that that sends a signal to a lot of people, because political issues can be they become convoluted because everybody tries to spin it. But if you do take the time to really dig down, you can figure it out. You figure out what side of it you really feel that you want to be on for yourself. And Pete was the impetus to approaching things that way for me.
Nice. Tell us a childhood memory that you think had a big impact on the man that you have now become.
Oh, it may not be one incident, but it is the same incident repeated over and over again, which I live to this day, which is an excessive amount of bullying. Very early on, I was sort of pegged for being a boy who was different, and myself not knowing what that was, and even the people who were perpetrating the bullying didn't really know. But it at some point morphed into I'm going to make sure people like Kid Gary are not taken advantage of for having a sensitivity, for having an artistic streak, for being kind, for not leading with fists. And I think that in an arena where we live now politically, where bullies are everywhere, I would say that has really influenced me. And perhaps were it not for that, You Can't Beat Blue would not be in existence.
Fabulous answer. Wow. You know what though? I think that the differences between the generations, like quick aside, sometimes when I would talk baby names with my sister, our dad would say, well, don't name him anything that's going to get him picked on. And we always looked at each other of a different generation, like, well, that doesn't really happen anymore. And I think it's because people like you did have that ethos, and that's how you lived your life. So each generation got you rubbed off on everybody. And so now we have a little bit more of what you exactly were trying to describe and hope to see.
I like to think so. I can co-sign that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Best piece of advice you would give like a college-age kid right now, someone who might be voting age, someone who's quite in, like a little bit in between, kind of like Caleb. What kind of advice would you give someone who's like in between childhood, adulthood, kind of making their way?
Take your time. Journal your feelings. Don't be afraid to say no to people. And I would take that even further. Be bold with saying no to people. You're going to impress the hell out of your peers if you stand up and say, no, that doesn't work for me. And you're going to intimidate the hell out of them. And you will rule from that point forward with that group. So that's it. Say no.
Nice. Brene Brown says that the opposite of belonging is fitting in. And so if you belong somewhere, you don't have to fit in. If you're trying to fit in, you inherently do not belong. Best job, worst job?
Best job. I've had a lot of good jobs. I don't get paid for doing this, but I would call this the best job. And I would say that what I'm capable of doing now in terms of interviewing, in terms of technology, in terms of production, has come from the number of jobs that I have had in the business. I think that production is a great training ground for politics, because in the end, it's a be ready for anything kind of industry.
Best thing about your current job?
Well, my current job is working on a show for HBO, and the best thing about it is working from home. I've never had the ability to produce television from my little YCBB headquarters here. So I'm in comfortable environment. I don't have to dress for work. My cat can hang out with me. And in between, I can work on furthering the causes of politicians and candidates such as yourself. So that's a weird blessing that has come out of COVID for me. And not to say that this attitude is going to work for everybody, because I've had it very good. But if you can make this situation work for you, doors can open that wouldn't have opened otherwise, as they did for me.
Agreed. A quick aside, is that an Emmy behind you?
No.
You were gesturing with your hands and I went, this son of a bitch has an Emmy. Just tucked amongst the other.
I do have an Emmy, and I won't get into the specifics, but I will say it was for a show that I got on, and I never thought to myself, well, you're going to win an Emmy for this, but we did. And yeah, so that was from 2014. And you might think it's impressive, but my partner who lives here has 3, so nobody's impressed by this one.
All right. Where's he at? Last question, your hat collection. Give me some insight. How many are we talking? How many? Can you rank them? Do you have a favorite?
I didn't know.
Are they exotic?
You did your research.
Thanks.
I mentioned my hat collection to you. Well, my hat collection started inadvertently actually with this hat, which I purchased on a. I had taken my mom to where she grew up. My mom is in her 80s. I took her to San Francisco and went and saw her old house and her neighborhood and all of that. And I picked this up and I thought, well, this is interesting. I'm going to write in there. Weekend, taking mom around San Francisco. And since then, it's sort of morphed into every time there is an event that I want to commemorate, I'll pick up another hat to commemorate it and then stitch or write into the inside of the hat what it's for. So I don't know how many I have, but I can tell you we've got a Joe Biden won hat. We've got a Trump is diagnosed with COVID hat. We have a pandemic 2020 hat. And on they go. They're not all political. Sometimes they're just life moments. But I like the idea of being able to pop a hat off the shelf 30 years from now and be reminded of something that was significant to me and know that hat came with that memory. So that's the story behind the hats.
I could not have asked for a better answer. That's incredible.
I'm pretty proud of that too, actually.
Yeah, you should be. That's thoughtfulness. You are full of thought. I love it.
Gay and lively, wonderfully agile,